Mr. Piyush Goyal, his lovely wife Dipali, incoming President Niranjan Hiranandani, Bhabhi, Kamal Bhabhi, past President Sajan Chindalji, Mr. Deepak Bagla, Jay Shroff, Sagarwal, Deepak Sood, Secretary General, all the distinguished captains of industry, representing over 4 lakh MSMEs across the country, and I think hundreds of chambers of commerce, one of which is Indian Merchant Chamber, by the way, where Niranjan and I have both worked quite actively, and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen. There's no free lunch, and I thought I was being invited for lunch, but then I have to pay the tax before that. And this is a GST tax where I don't even get an input yet. But I was just running through the Honorable Prime Minister's issues that he very eloquently articulated this morning. I was at that time addressing FICCI, and in some sense, it's a great message to the world that on International Human Solidarity Day, which we are celebrating today, it's a day where we are looking at working together, collaborating, cooperating, working in partnerships. On such a day, FICCI and ASSOCHAM can both have their national events and annual events on the same day, in the same city, get huge traction in both the programs, and both with the common objective to achieve a $5 trillion economy. That's the true strength of India. Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister covered a very vast array of subjects. He spoke about the legacy, he spoke about national goals, focused a lot on the mindset. Whether we achieve a $5 trillion or no is not going to be determined necessarily only by the actions you and I take. A lot of it is in our mind. Are we willing to engage with something which sounds extraordinary or even may sound impossible? Are we willing to dare to achieve the unsurmountable? And I really believe that in some sense, what he spoke here today, what I was trying to share with the FICCI audience around the same time, had a very common thread in terms of the effort that the government is taking and needs to take and will continue to take. Whether it's the compliance burden that the Prime Minister talked about, the formalization of the economy, inclusive growth where the farmers, workers, small traders, MSMEs, big industry all work together, a listening government, an action-oriented government, the transformational reforms that he highlighted, spoke about entrepreneurship. Failure, in fact, has to be celebrated. It should not be looked down upon. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. Both the Honorable Finance Minister and the Prime Minister spoke about banking. We need to see some big, bold decision making coming out of the banks. Deepak also spoke about FDI and its contribution in the last 5 years. End of the day, I think the common thread that we all have to weave around the various targets, around the various ambitions that you and I and all of us have, will ultimately veer around to our ability to think big, the self-confidence in ourselves, our desire to engage with the world on reciprocal and equal terms, our commitment to a better India, not only for our families and our people, but for every single Indian citizen, the 1.3 billion people aspiring for a better quality of life. And in that sense, I think the time has come that industry, both big and small, works along with the government, but also works towards a common objective where certain sacrifices are going to be called both by industry and by the government. I was just sharing with PK and Sajan about my own itinerary yesterday. After learning a little bit of economics from Geeta Gopinath, the eminent economist from Harvard who's now at the IMF, I spent about 5.5 hours talking to 37 export promotion councils covering every aspect of Indian exports and 5 ports, the tea board, coffee, tobacco and all of them. Spent a couple of hours with the traders from Chandni Chowk, understanding the woes on the ground, the practical small difficulties. In the middle of trying to see how the Indian boiler regulations can do a better job, the IBR, which is of course largely a state-run regulation, but the central government does have power to give directions and set the framework right. And the common thread in all of these was the fact that this is a listening government. This is a government that wants to engage more and more to understand what's happening on the ground. And this is a government which wants to resolve issues. Something that I think Sajan experienced when in the course of my interaction with the export promotion councils, a decision I had taken 2.5 months ago, pardon me Sajan for sharing it with everybody, but 2.5 months ago, when I was engaging with the steel industry, I had also called FIO, EEPC to come into the interaction. And they had the grouse that exporters cannot be competitive because the steel prices in India are not at international levels. At that time, the steel industry made me a commitment that they will ensure that they provide steel at internationally competitive prices to the domestic exporters, particularly the small exporters. Ladies and gentlemen, all it takes is 1 million tons out of 100 million tons that they produce, 1 million tons that needed to be given to the MSMEs at international prices. Yesterday, when they pointed out to me that that's not been operationalized as yet, I blew my top. And those of you who have engaged with me off and on know that I blow my top very easily. Doesn't take long for me to get excited. And I called up Sajan from the meeting. I called up Narendran, the Tata Steel CEO, from the meeting and gave them 7 days to comply with that. Otherwise, I said after that, आपका मेरा नाता कट गया, फिर steel industry मेरे पास आके कुछ ना मांगे. And why I'm sharing this with all of you, ladies and gentlemen, is that we will all have to work as partners. We'll all have to work as stakeholders towards a common cause. I face this problem every single day when I'm interacting with the entire value chain on any sector. This was one example. Let me take the example of the tire industry. When I'm engaged with the tire industry, I cannot ignore the realities that the natural rubber manufacturers or producers in India face. They are small farmers, small land holding, small output, don't have modern technology, don't have the wherewithal to be able to introduce new technologies. They are unable to expand in the northeast where there's huge potential. It needs 6 lakh rupees per acre probably and 5 or 6 years of consistent work before natural rubber starts coming up. Often they are distressed for cash, they cut their produce even before it matures fully. Quality suffers. But the tire industry on the other hand complains that our import duties are too liberal and we are flooded with imports from even some of the FTA countries and other countries. As government, my job is to protect the entire value chain. If I talk to each one of them separately, I'll end up doing injustice to one or the other. And we came to a shared agreement that I'll support the tire industry by ensuring that we don't have unnecessary dumping of finished goods in the country. It may need increasing duty, it may need some safeguard duties or countervailing or anti-dumping support. But at the same time, natural rubber manufacturers, the small farmers, to upgrade their technology levels. We'll help them sow in newer areas like the Northeast, maybe support them financially, maybe enter into long-term agreements on the back of which bankers and NABARD can support them. But it's only when we work with the whole value chain, collectively, that we can even sort out the inverted duty structure that the Honorable Prime Minister spoke of earlier in the day. It's only when we work as partners that we can strengthen our MSMEs to become more creditworthy and get the bankers to start supporting them. While of course the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister are making huge effort, coming out with scheme after scheme to support bankers to lend boldly and freely, to lend to the NBFC sector, to lend to the real estate sector, take decisions to settle old accounts, to take fast decisions to sanction new limits. But at the same time, can all of us collectively not think of some innovative ideas? I'm sorry I'm picking a lot on you suddenly, but a company like yours, or a company like Hiranandani's, or a company like Anil Agarwal's, who was here until some time ago, can all of these large companies who are not stressed for any cash flow problem, they don't have any difficulty in getting a bank loan. They have the best of credit ratings. The bank possibly doesn't ask you for personal guarantees like they ask many of our small and MSME industries. Possibly you could start paying all your suppliers, and a company like yours would have probably 50,000 suppliers, or a group like yours. Can you pay all of those 50,000 suppliers in advance or against delivery? No. And help them upgrade their product, help them improve their productivity, help them improve their output, improve their credit ratings, which will automatically flow with greater production. And if we collectively work, the large players participate in the credit requirements of their smaller suppliers in the short run, the longer will sort itself out easily. We are trying to do that on the export front. I'm hopefully going to soon be able to come out with the NIRVIT scheme details, which are now before the cabinet, where we've looked at the root cause of the problem of export financing. Now you have one or two cases like Gitanjali and whatever else happened, and the bankers suddenly get into a freeze mentality, and you see export credit falling. However much I've been trying to persuade the bankers, it was not getting us anywhere. It was not getting the credit flow into the system. So we got the bankers into the room. Maybe some of you may have been a part of those deliberations. We got all bankers into the room and said, what will it take to help you restart lending? They said, we can't trust the ECGC policy because we never get any credit claims or default claims in time. And I remembered my own experiences of 30 years ago when I was an exporter from a small-scale industry, where I have visited the ECGC office. I think it's at World Trade Center possibly, I don't remember now. But I have visited that office maybe 15 or 20 times, never got my claim, and decided to write it off because it was not worth the effort to pursue. So we got the bankers to look at the ECGC policy and in track change, give us a revised framework which will give them the confidence that they can get their claims in time. They actually rewrote that whole ECGC policy, which the government and ECGC accepted in total, 100%. And instead of 60% claims being reimbursed to the banks, now ECGC will reimburse 90% of the claim instead of only the principal. 60% of the principal. Now ECGC will give any default on export credit 90% of principal and interest as a repayment to any default. Any default up to 10 crores will be paid without any inspection based on the papers that are submitted. Defaults above that, 50% will be paid in 30 days. And the balance after the due process of verification. Now this small change gives the bankers the backstop and the confidence that export credit, even if it was to go bad, they're quite well covered. Now what happens with this small decision? Government of course will have to put in 8 to 10,000 crores to support ECGC, get the reinsurance up to 90% without causing a stress to the industry. But the bankers' capital requirement falls. The credit given to exporters becomes a AA rated plus credit, so they don't have to ask you for more collateral. Hopefully they don't have to ask you for personal guarantees. With their reducing capital requirement, their ability to lend increases, and they have committed that those who join the NIRVIC scheme under these guidelines will be given export credit in dollar terms at between 150 to 200 basis points above LIBOR, and in rupee terms at about 150 to 200 basis points above the RBI repo rate. So you're looking at export credit at about 7.5% for all those who are coming under the NIRVIC scheme. Now at 7.5% in rupee terms with a forward cover, you are getting your export financing at about 3.5-4%. I dare say nowhere in the world will a borrower, there may be negative interest rates or zero interest rates in parts of the world, but borrowers will not get credit at less than this rate anywhere in the world, and will be at a comparable level to any other part of the world. Now what we have done is we've tried to sort out the problem from the root, looked at an innovative solution so that permanently you don't have to sit and make claims for interest subvention, go fight with the government whether you get a 2% interest subvention or a 3% subvention. All that should be history. Let's simplify things. In the same way, all the stress and strain that very often we feel in industry, it'll be good if we come and talk to the government. We share your concerns. We are part of you. And unless we take this dialogue forward in a more proactive manner, particularly when you have access to us round the clock, it's a listening government, willing to engage. Whatever Rahul Bhai may say in the ET award, the very fact is that everybody has a say, everybody has an opportunity to talk. And irrespective of who makes your name or who gave you your name, we listen to you. It doesn't matter even if an opposition party leader may have given you your name. For us, each one of you are equally valuable and equally important. And I do believe that the time is right for us to start, as the Prime Minister said, with our own self-confidence first. Unless we believe in ourselves, as he said, I think it's ended with संकल्प से सिद्धि. जब तक हमें आत्मविश्वास नहीं है अपने ऊपर, जब तक हमारा निश्चय दृढ़ नहीं है, we should be in a non-compromising confidence that we can do it and we shall do it. And to my mind, coming together is the beginning, but working together will really show us progress, will help us achieve our goal. And it's important that all of us stakeholders work together, work in the direction of change, talk to each other, work as industry segments to protect the entire value chain, move beyond what is good for me. It's not about me, moi, myself. It's about us. It's about all of us. If the MSME sector is not successful, big industry cannot be successful. But if we don't have big industry, MSMEs will run out of work. We all have to coexist, we all have to work together. And that's what collaboration and cooperation is all about. And within that collaboration, I don't think the competitive spirit needs to ever be compromised. We can still compete. We can in fact improve our competitive edge through that competition, but yet remain engaged as collaborators. As Michael Porter said, India, or for that matter any country, cannot necessarily be competitive or globally competitive in and focus on that. And to my mind, we have significant strengths in a number of areas. We need not do everything ourselves. Let's focus on where we have that capability, that extra possibility that we can leverage, on which we can grow, on which we can truly impact performance. And innovation is one area which I think we've ignored for far too long. I'm told India has only 200 researchers per million people compared to 1200 in China or over 4,000 in the United States of America. And what distinguishes America from the rest of the world? Why do so many of our children go to the US and do extremely well there? I would think two things, or possibly I can add a third. One is clearly the infrastructure that they have created. As Kennedy said, did America make the highways or the highways made America? I'm quite sure what he meant was the fact that they had good infrastructure helped America achieve those huge goals that they set for themselves. The Honorable Prime Minister alluded to the huge infrastructure challenge that we have before India, which the government is committed to take up and improve the infrastructure of the country in the years to come. We in the railways are looking at a 50 lakh crore rupee investment, nearly $700 billion over the next 12 years, largely coming out of partnerships, engagements, joint ventures and collaborations, so that we can modernize the railways, bring down the logistics cost, improve the share of freight in the railway network, and make it a truly world-class super railway where the rail suffer is an enjoyable journey, not a suffer in the English language as you yeah. We are very keen that we look at different areas where all of us can also understand each other's position, be it litigation, be it regulatory certainty and predictability, be it the fact that we need to see less compliances or much more seamless compliances. These are areas where we can work together. I was really delighted at the report that was shared with me, the journey towards the $5 trillion economy. This journey is only going to be possible when we all work in tandem. I remember the Prime Minister when on the day we won our second term in office, with an even larger majority, thanks to all of you, had spoken about the country now having only two castes. The less privileged, marginalized sections of society, the poor, whose life we need to improve. We all need to collectively worry about them. We all need to ensure that they have a better quality of life. We can't allow 150 districts in the country troubled by Naxalism and Maoist activities to remain so for far too long. We can't have the wide disparities between Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore on the one end and the 105 aspirational districts yearning for more. This kind of wide disparity has to be addressed. We truly will have to look for a more inclusive society. But at the same time, we'll have to be a much more innovative nation. The second leg after infrastructure that America has scored over us. Innovation will have to drive the future, and our startups, our young engineers, our young innovators do make all of us proud. I hope industry associations and industry also engages with that new emerging ecosystem much more deeply. And I think if we all encourage innovation, if we use some of our CSR funds to R&D, if we all work together as partners with academia, industry and the government working together, India can also engage with innovation in a much more proactive manner. And of course the third leg, Finance Minister and Prime Minister both spoke of, would be the fact that government will have to play the role of a facilitator, of an enabler, and will have to end that harassment that many times is is felt at lower levels of government. I'm sure none of you needs to come to the corridors of power in Delhi anymore. We are trying our best to give the message from the top of India wanting to be recognized the world over as an honest country, a country where you can do business without fear or favor, where everybody gets an equal opportunity. But at the same time, government's job will have to be as a facilitator. And I want to assure each and every one of you, the Commerce and Industry Ministry is available to all of you 24/7. Come to us with any issue that affects you in the center, in the states, regulatory, non-regulatory, judicial, whatever are the issues, where we can engage with you, help find solutions, reduce litigation, bring more predictability to the regulatory framework. We are happy to learn from you. We are happy to understand. And I would love it if you can also come with some possible solutions. You understand the problem best. Probably you'll come up with the best solutions. And let's work together in the spirit of camaraderie. Let's work together with your 4 lakh plus members, with all those 300 chambers and trade associations at ASSOCHAM. Get the feedback from all of them. Give us that feedback in what we need to do to get government out of your businesses. Look at the IT sector. It's one of the single largest reasons it's been so prosperous has been because government never was involved in that sector. Let's see what we can do to make each one of you have a more simplified framework. I was talking earlier to the FICCI members. Many of our children have probably gone to the US to study, and we've all helped them fill up the common application form. All the basic data is the same. We could easily have top-down menus for each organization for any specific information they may require. Can we all work together to devise a simple mechanism to cut short all the bureaucracy and the hassle of starting or running our businesses? Can we look at automatic self-approvals like we have the well-known food shops or the well-known boiler establishments who don't have to go back to the government each time for certification? JSW is a well-known steel plant. You don't ever have to go to the IPR office for registration. You do need to do a periodic 5-year or 10-year re-inspection. That's all. It's a simplified framework. You've never heard about it. But I remember how I used to get my boilers passed 30 years ago, running a small scale unit. It was a nightmare. And I had a namesake who was working in the Delhi Udyog Bhavan, where I have my office now, whom I had to come all the way from Bombay to meet, do all the rest of the stuff in order to get an inspection fixed up for my furnaces. Today, in the last 5 years, all of that has been changed. We now have over 370 experts certified to do any boiler inspection anywhere in the country. 11 private sector organizations have been approved. You can get your boiler inspected from anybody. You don't have to go to the government office at all. You choose where you want your inspection. Same way we are looking at the explosives office. Please so. I'm told it was a nightmare getting explosive licenses. Just in a review while the parliament session was on, by March, it will all be online. And if anybody gets harassed for even one thing, we want you to talk to us, tell us, and we'll take action. But unless you tell us, I can't take action on hearsay, I can't take action on a general feeling that there is harassment. We need specific information on which we can act, and I urge all of you. God also helps only those who help themselves. If we are not willing to come forward, if not individually, at least collectively, we can solve those problems. Please be bold. Please be willing to engage. And let's all be partners in nation building. Let's leverage our 1.3 billion strong aspirational Indians. Let's use this huge market that we have to offer to anybody wanting to come and work in India. No other market in the world offers such a big opportunity that India offers. Let's also work for the backward areas of the country. Can we not all look at Kashmir, Jammu, Leh, Ladakh and think how we can also bring them into the national mainstream? Can we all engage in setting up units in these areas, in the areas in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, West Bengal, which have remained deprived for far too long? Let's all of us work to make a difference to the lives of those people who are our own. Possibly didn't board a plane like some of our ancestors may have and go to the cities and make a better life for our children. Suddenly, you know your history. I know my family history. I know you told me how you first came to Mumbai. All of us came out of our cocoons and made it big in our lives. I think it's enjoined upon us. It's a duty cast upon all of us. And we are all powerful people. With great power comes great responsibility. I think it's our responsibility to care for all those who are left behind in the villages, who didn't get a chance to board that train and get the luxuries or a better quality of life. Let's all work together like we did in the Swachh Bharat mission, taking toilets to every home, like we did to take electricity to every home, like we did to double the gas connections across the country and get our ladies out of the 400 cigarettes of smoke that they were inhaling every day. Let's all partner towards a better India, towards a more inclusively developed India. Let's strengthen the India image across the world. Let's work to simplify the lives of our people. Let's make life easier for our people. And that's all possible, ladies and gentlemen, if we are willing to talk, we are willing to work together, we are willing to listen to each other, understand each other, work in partnerships. And as has been said, a conversation can get us far more than criticism alone. Let us all talk to each other in that spirit of partnership, in that spirit of engagement. Linda Lambert, an author and a professor at once said, one good conversation can shift the direction of change forever. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, here is a government that wants to talk to you and ensure that we can change the narrative, we can change the future of India to truly achieve the $1 trillion target that we've all set out to do in the shortest possible time. And I personally believe it's certainly and eminently doable by 2025, the target that you and I have all set for ourselves. My best wishes to ASSOCHAM on its 100th anniversary. Congratulations for a job well done. Good wishes to you, Niranjan, for a year ahead of you. Lot of challenges, but every challenge is an opportunity. Good luck to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your encouraging words. In the interest of time, I'm actually going to skip through all that I had to say and just thank sir for the Honorable Minister for his words, what he gave us. The industry, much needed impetus in the industry and for simplifying the industry what we have coming forward. So thank you. Thank you, ASSOCHAM, for having me here, and it's a pleasure being here.